Welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve and this is Joe. And today we're going to be talking about speed trading, but based on some feedback, we're going to make a few changes. So now we're going to be talking about a player that if you're in win now mode, you should target them. And what would we be willing to give up? And we are from a dynasty context. So Joe, let's go to the first player. We're going to be talking about running back Derrick Henry. Would you be willing to give up Ramondre Stevenson and a first for Derrick Henry? We'll say it's a late first.
A late first. Yeah, I think that because especially coming from the win now perspective as well, Steve, really just going to go for it. Ramondre's been good, but you never just know with the New England. They could, if once Harris is more healthy. I know he had the illness this past week. Maybe they decided to use him a little more out of nowhere or something. You just never know. But there's no doubt. I mean, getting Derrick Henry right now for a win now is just going to put you over the edge, and I'd be willing to do that to go for him.
Yeah, I would also be willing to give that up. I have my own concerns about Ramondre Stevenson. Obviously, he's played great. I think Damian Harris being unavailable has helped that. Like you said, New England backfields have not had the best pedigree as far as one guy getting the ball, and so far Stevenson has been that guy. That late first also is probably not going to give you a blue chip player. Henry, well, I thought the wheels were falling off in the beginning. I was wrong. I think Henry is probably going to be good for the next year or two. I wouldn't say his window is definitely small, but for a win now move, I mean, he's going to play Houston again. You're going to want him for that. So he'll probably run over for
100%.
200 yards again. So, okay. So that was offer number one. Offer number two. Would you be willing to give up Amon-Ra St. Brown, Damian Pierce, and a second for Derrick Henry?
Yeah, you know what? I think just got to put your chips all in if you want to win a championship and just go for it. And I'd say, it's as tough as it would be to trade, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I get it. He's a young guy, looked pretty good, but I have my concerns about him for the future, especially once Jamison Williams gets involved. There's just a lot of players in that offense with the Lions. And then Pierce, he's great for this year. But I just don't know what the outlook will be for him in Houston. He wasn't a high draft pick. So, yeah, I think I'd be willing to just give that up and get King Henry on my team.
I would also be willing to give that up. I agree with you on Pierce. I have some concerns long term for him. Short term, he's great, but Derrick Henry is just next level. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's good now, but let's say Bryce Young's a quarterback, maybe Jamison Williams is this guy. Anytime a new quarterback comes into the landscape, you just don't know what players he's going to target. Amon-Ra has been good. I know a lot of fantasy analysts will probably tell you to buy him. So I think it's a reasonable trade though, and I think it would help you in your win now ventures.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so our third offer that we're gonna send for Derrick Henry is running back Najee Harris straight up.
That's that's an interesting one, Steve. But I mean, we got to win the championship this year, and
Wow.
this is the year that I'm worried about Najee Harris. And Najee Harris is not going to win me my championship this year, but Derrick Henry will. Najee Harris, I think, is a fine play for the future. But if we're talking about trying to win the championship this year he's got the foot injury that I'm concerned with. The offensive line isn't playing well. So as tough as it would be for the future asset to win, I'd be willing to do it.
See, that's where I draw the line. I would not give up Najee Harris for Derrick Henry. Totally agree with you from a win now perspective. That would help you immensely, but you would be sacrificing possible long-term dividends with Najee Harris. I think he'll get back on track next year. Very interesting offer. All right, so our next player, wide receiver Davante Adams, is on the block. Okay. Would you give up Mike Williams and a first, late first, for Davante?
Yeah, I think I'd go ahead and do that. I know Davante Adams has had an up and down year, but he's at least been out there and performing. Mike Williams, once again, battling injuries, just not out there. Tough to rely on him. And then even when he is out there, it's kind of that boom bust guy. Anyways. So, to get Davante, absolutely, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I would as well. Interestingly enough, Devontae has been somewhat boomer bust sometimes, but I think that is, I mean, Mike Williams has really good potential down the road with Herbert, especially Keenan Allen getting older and starting to get injured. But, Mike Williams has injury concerns as well. So I would be willing to give that up to get Davante Adams. All right. So offer number 2, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Palmer, and a second for Davante.
Hmm. I don't think I do that.
Okay.
Because I think both of those guys, I know they're not Davante Adams, they don't have the name, but I think they could produce enough for fantasy and you would still be okay to possibly win now. I mean, uh, Mike Williams is out. We'll see how long it actually does take for him to come back. Keenan Allen has been out, tried to come back, re-injured the hamstring. Don't know when he's coming back. Right now, I mean, Palmer is the lead guy with the Chargers, and they just pass a ton. Judy has shown the last couple of games some, you know, Broncos could be using him more. I mean, I think back-to-back weeks with 90 receiving yards, that's pretty encouraging. So, and then to give up a second on top of that, I think I'd hold off on that.
See, I think I would do that trade because I think Judy and Palmer at this point are more projects. Could be good. Don't know if they'll get to that elite level ever. So I like that package. I think I would do that trade for Davante.
Interesting.
All right. So our last package. Would you trade Michael Pittman and David Njoku for Davante Adams?
Yeah, I would.
Really?
Yeah. Pittman, you don't know what to expect from the guy. Ellinger really hasn't looked that great. Don't know, he tried to get him a deep ball for once and he overthrew him. Deep ball accuracy is not what he's known for. You really have to just rely on Pittman getting a ton of targets because they're going to be really short and accumulate them. And then I know Njoku's been really good, but Devontae, he should give you. I know he's been boomer bust, but that could change, and he could, he should be more of a reliable guy, and he should be the top guy that Derek Carr is targeting, even though the Raiders' offense just hasn't been too good.
Yeah, for me, this would be a tough one only because I think I still do it, but I think more reluctantly I would give it up because I'm not as a big a fan of Pittman. But I mean, there's no denying the youth that's on Pittman and Njoku's side, and I think Njoku could be really good. So I think it's a fine offer. All right, so our last trade target is tight end Travis Kelce. So let's go with our first offer that you're receiving, Joe. Would you trade Pat Freiermuth and Kenneth Walker for Kelce?
Wow. That's definitely an interesting offer. I don't know if I could pull the trigger on that, Steve.
Okay.
You know, I know Kelce is, a huge difference maker at tight end. He's far and away the best tight end to have, regardless if you're in redraft or dynasty. But Freiermuth is a solid play at tight end, and then I really like Kenneth Walker. I mean, I was I told you I thought he was potentially the best running back in this rookie draft here, and he's really played well with Seattle, and he's got the workload. I don't really see them differing from that in the future here. So I just think it'd be kind of tough to give that up for as many years as you might have him, where, Kelce's kind of his window could be kind of a shorter, not sure how long he's going to be playing for.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't give it up either. I think it's a little bit on the rich end. Not too bad, but I think for me, I don't mind the trading Kenneth Walker. I think fantasy football owners get awestruck, the running back that ends up doing well, and all of a sudden he, gets an injury or some other running back gets involved, and then his value just tanks. But him attached with Freiermuth, who I think is a young tight end who could be pretty good, that's where I draw the line, and I feel like I can't. That's too much of the future I'm giving up. All right, so offer number 2. Would you give up tight end Dallas Goedert, wide receiver DJ Moore, and a second-round pick? We'll say early second-round pick for Kelce.
Yeah, I think I'd be willing to push those guys in for Kelce. Just because, DJ Moore, he's a very, really talented wide receiver, should be a lot better for fantasy, but just the inconsistent play at quarterback really hurts him. And then, if the game scripts are going to keep happening like last week, those are tough as well. So, and then you mentioned Dallas Goedert. I was expecting pretty decent things out of him. They just don't seem to utilize him as much as I thought they potentially would. So, yeah, I think I'd be just pushing my chips in and getting Kelce and getting that difference maker at tight end, because nobody has a better tight end in your league than he is. So,
Yeah, and I agree. I'd be willing to give this up. I think for me, Goddard, he's a good tight end. He's younger, and then DJ Moore, not as good this year. I think has the potential to become better in the future, but he has been, he's a good player. He's a good prospect. He's not really a prospect, but he's a good guy to have in development. He's still on the younger side. So, and then the second round pick, early second, is nice. I think that's a decent value for a Kelce who you probably have a 2-3 year window with him. So I think that's a good offer. All right, our last offer number 3. Would you give up Kyle Pitts for Travis Kelce? Straight up.
As tough as it might be, Steve, I think I might,
Oof.
really get that championship. Pitts, no doubt, really talented player. I just don't trust Marcus Mariota. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback if they, continue to go with Mariota or even Desmond Ridder. Just not sure, even with him. The Falcons really like to run the ball. He could be a player down the road, but I'm looking to win now, and I can't wrestle with is Kyle Pitts going to have that big game, or is he going to give me a goose? I just need consistent play from the tight end, and there's no better player to do that than Kelce.
Yeah, this one's probably the most difficult one. And I could see people actually, having these conversations in their leagues. Boy, I think I'd do it if I'm in the win now mode. I mean, man, Kelce would be the cherry on top and would really just put you to another level where I think you could win a championship. He's just such a difference maker. It's tough because I think Pitts is, an elite prospect, and I think that it will all come together at some point. Not going to be this year, I don't think. Most likely, maybe not even next year. So that's the tough part, because you're letting go a guy who is going to be elite. But to me, Kelce's such a difference maker. I think you got to make the move.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you have to too. I mean, it definitely be tough for the future play of Pitts. I mean, we just don't know what it's going to be. He could be very good. I mean, he's got all the talent and all the tools to do so, but Kelsey's just that guy right now that's, like you said, is going to probably be exactly what you need to put your team over the top and win that championship.
And some may disagree with us. I mean, some may say absolutely not. You can't do that. Kelsey's only got 2 to 3 years. How could you possibly consider trading away Pitts? But it's like, okay, great, you make the playoffs 10 years in a row. The whole point of playing is to win a championship. If I win one championship and I'm back down the tubes, sure, I got to build it back up from scratch. But, hey, I won. Some people would disagree. You build your team over time, but sooner or later, you just got to push all your chips in and you got to go for it.
Agree with you 100%. You play to win the game, man.
That's right. We have Herm Edwards come in. You play to win the game.
You play to win the game.
Right. So those were 3 players that we just identified that you should be looking at them as trade targets if you are a win now team. We are relatively a new channel, so we create several videos on a weekly basis. So if you could like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell, we would greatly appreciate it. And then let us know if you have any comments. Do you agree with the valuations that we put on these players? And would you be willing to give up for the players that we discussed, whether it be Travis Kelce, Davante Adams, or running back Derrick Henry? So please go ahead and put a comment below. Thank you for watching, and until next time.